Hey guys, welcome back here to Advanced Bass Fishing. Appreciate you guys swinging by the channel and checking it out. And guys, today we are going to have some good foundational tips, just a broad ranging conversation on wintertime and early spring jerkbait fishing. You guys that watch my channel, all three of my channels, you know I talk about jerkbaits a lot, but I want to sort of go over in this particular video some high points. It's like about 7 or 8 different things that will really make a big difference that you can incorporate in your jerkbait fishing, because I always say, make no mistake about it, jerkbait fishing is the most complicated technique in bass fishing. There's so many variables to it. So regardless if you've seen something like this before or haven't, this will definitely, it'll definitely get you more jerkbait fish. If you're struggling with jerkbaits or you want to improve yourself, these tips that I'm going to give you guys will definitely help out. And also guys, I will include my Megabass Jerkbait link and my Tackle Warehouse link in the description of this video. If you guys would like to order some after the video, using that link's a really good way to support the channel. And also guys, if you want to learn and go to the next level, right now you can book an on-the-water jerkbait lesson with me on Table Rock or Stockton Lake here in Missouri. Jerkbait fishing is really good right now. I can teach you on the water everything you need to know about it. If you're interested, just shoot me a private message on my Facebook page, Randy Blockett Professional Angler, and I'll get you the details. So really appreciate that. Okay guys, the point of this video here is, out of all the different things that involve jerkbait fishing, there are hundreds of different variables to it. You can go into colors and retrieves and cadences and the equipment and the line and the hook size, modifications, different type of tints to it, type of water, seasonal movements and patterns. We could literally talk 8 hours about jerkbait fishing. But for the sake and the expedience of time, I want to give you some of the most important ones. It's like if you want to immediately benefit yourself, with your jerkbait fishing, this is going to help out tremendously what we're getting ready to talk about here. Okay, now the first one, I don't have my rod here with me, but like I said, some of you guys that have been with me for a while may have heard some of this, but it's worth repeating. But the first primary thing about fishing a jerkbait is you need to fish your jerkbait with a spinning outfit. I've done videos on this. You can refer to some of my jerkbait videos. I've talked about this before. Most people use a bait caster with a jerkbait, but you don't want to do that. There's no reason. There's only one jerkbait that I use with a bait caster, and it's that big 7-inch Megabass Canada. It's a big, giant 7-inch jerkbait. It weighs a couple ounces. It's just too big and heavy to throw with a spinning rod. But every other jerkbait that Megabass makes, literally every jerkbait they make, which are a bunch of them, I fish them on a spinning rod. Now, if you fish with me, if you guys are on the, like if you would go with an on-the-water lesson with me, what I can show you is you can manipulate the bait and you can put action on a jerkbait, and you have the feel on a jerkbait with a spinning rod that cannot be duplicated with a bait caster. You don't have the feel. There's something about the guides, the rod guides being on the bottom, and the way the wrist twitches and everything about the intrinsic part of a spinning outfit. It allows you to put a diversity of action on the jerkbait that makes it come alive that you simply can't do with the bait caster. That is just, without a doubt, it's a reality. And don't get me wrong, guys. For 25 years, I fished with a bait caster with jerkbait, and it was only when I started really honing in on the good benefits of a spinning outfit, and when spinning tackle improved. Back you got to realize, when I was throwing my jerkbait on a bait caster, we didn't have the rod quality that we do now, or the reel quality. It was like the spinning rods back then, a lot of them were 6 foot long, and they were whippy, and they had big fat guides on them, and you just didn't have the same quality. But with today's spinning rod technology, and I'll link that my spinning rod that I use for jerkbaits, that Megabass 610 model, in this description link too, if you guys want to check that out. But go to spinning rod. You just get better action on the bait. And if you don't believe me, guys, just try it. I mean, every person that has ever fished with me in any tournament or on the water lesson, I'll convert them to a spinning outfit. Number one most important thing. Another thing about the spinning outfit is you can throw lighter line on it. Most people fish a jerkbait on too heavy a line. Heavier line on a jerkbait, you're not going to get the depth out of it. You're not going to get the action out of it. You don't get the casting distance out of it. So that's the two big benefits with a spinning outfit is the lure action manipulation and the fact that you can use lighter line with it. Big thing with that. Another thing with the jerkbait is the way the bait is weighted. The specific type of weighting that you want to do on a jerkbait depends on the mood and the personality of the fish. Now, the Megabass jerkbaits that I use, they're weighted very precisely. It's like most Megabass jerkbaits will slowly rise a little bit. Some of them will slowly fall. Some of them will stand pretty standard, but they're very precisely weighted. It's not like the ones, excuse me, like the old Rogues that floated up like a cork. So based upon the mood and the personality of the fish, you want all three. If you want your jerkbait to float up, and say, for example, you get a Megabass model where they're sinking or they're suspending, all you have to do is go to a little bit lighter or smaller hook, and that's going to get them to float up a little bit. If you want the bait to sink a little bit, which that's the way I fish it 99% of the time, as somebody that has fished a jerkbait my whole life, guys, I want this jerkbait to sink a little bit. All you have to do is put some suspend strips on it or go up on in a little bit larger hook. But you know, based upon your conditions, sometimes, say for example, if you're fishing for smallmouth up north and the water's warm and those smallmouth are real aggressive, sometimes they like it to float up a little bit. You can keep it shallower. Sometimes if you're fishing a little bit more off-colored water, and say for example, you're fishing standing timber or a boat dock and the water's really cold and you want that bait to suspend just perfect like that, you got to tweak it a little bit. And another thing to remember about suspension or sinking or falling or rising on a jerkbait is going to be affected by the type of line you're using. Fluorocarbon line it sinks more. It's going to sink your jerkbait. Monofilament is going to float it more. The water temperature is going to have something to do with it a little bit too. And again, the hook size and that type of stuff. So you just need to sort of tweak with that. Another thing with it is color. Color is the most important thing in a jerkbait besides lure manipulation. The lure manipulation is super critical in how you work it, followed up by color, because a jerkbait is a sight-oriented bait. And Megabass makes like 100 different colors, so I can't go over every one of them. But the thing that's just a general rule of thumb you want to remember in jerkbait fishing is that let the fish tell you what they want. I can sit and tell you like what should work, but ultimately you have got to let the fish tell you. And the more that I fish with a jerkbait and the more time I spend with it, the more that I realize that some of my preconceived notions that I have on color, a lot of times a lot of times do not work. They work probably, 60, 70% of the time, but there's 30 to 40% of the time where things that I teach you about color do not apply day in and day out because there's other factors involved. It's like when I tell you, okay, the certain color works if it's cloudy and the water visibility is a certain range, there's other factors that determine color that the fish want because it could be the tint of the water, maybe a blue-green algae looking, it may be aqua blue, maybe tannic acid. It could be the sun angle, it could be the fishing pressure. So I have seen in about 30, 40% of the cases that nothing makes any sense with it. It's like I have seen fish get caught on a jerkbait that I never would have thrown before. I never would have tried that color because I've had so much success on other colors. So number one is keep in mind that you have to experiment. But given that, you have to start somewhere. You have to start somewhere. So when you start somewhere, 3 different things to remember. If you're using a flat finish or solid color jerkbait, this is a really good color in cloudy conditions or off-colored water. If you're fishing clear water or bright sunny conditions, some type of a clear or translucent that's more natural is going to work better. And then if you're fishing sort of that in-between, sort of the water visibility 2 to 3 feet, especially if it's windy and bright out, some type of metallic finish is going to work good because the sun reflecting off that metallic sometimes generates a strike. That is the basic foundation that I go by to start with, but I usually always have to wind up tweaking it. So here's one thing to remember. if you start with the basic foundation, like I told you, and you start catching a fish or two, and so you know there's fish where you're at, and you know they're biting a jerkbait, this is when you want to experiment with some off-the-wall colors. And that's why it's important to have a big color selection, because I can't tell you guys how many times that I've seen color make all the difference in jerkbait fishing. And that's what I do. As soon as I start catching a fish on a certain color, that's when I dig out 2 or 3 other colors that I'm thinking, man, that might work, it might not work. Let's just try it and see. The fish probably haven't seen this color before, and that's when you want to try it. That's a really big emphasis that you need to put on it. Couple different other things here without making the video run a long way. Those are going to be the big ones that I just talked to you about. But the way that you work a jerkbait, as far as how you put action on a jerkbait, has a lot to do with generation of strikes too. And here again, the more that I fish a jerkbait and the more that I understand a jerkbait, it's a day in and day out process. You don't really know the cadence or the retrieve until you let the fish figure it out. So I'll give you guys sort of a foundation, and then you have to tweak it just like you do the color. Most of the time you're gonna have 2 different extremes in jerkbait fishing. You're gonna have cold, off-colored water, say water temperature 45 degrees and water visibility 1.5 feet. On the other end of the spectrum, you may have warm water, say water temperature 80 degrees and clear. Those are the complete polar opposite ends of the spectrum. And then everything else comes together. Like in the middle, the average might be, water visibility of 3.5 feet, that type of thing, and water temperature of 60 degrees. And so you got all these different combinations of water clarity and water visibility and time of the year that affect the color and the retrieve and everything about it. Normally what you're going to have, if you're on the lower end of the spectrum, say the more stained and the colder the water is, this is when you have to slow down your retrieve. And this is when you go as slow as possible. And then on the other end, if you're in clear water and hot water, that's when you work the heck out of that bait. That's when you just try to get that bait just darting everywhere like that without even stopping. So if it's warm and clear, you're working it like this. If it's cold and stained, you're working it like a snail. You're barely moving it, just like that. And then again, as things get closer, you're working it a little bit faster, and you have to experiment. You really have to experiment until you hit on the retrieve that the fish want. Now, this is the 2 most important things that you have to hit on in order to maximize the number of fish you catch. You have to hit on that right cadence and that right speed of retrieve in correlation with the right color of the jerkbait they're choosing. And the closer that you come together with that, with the right color and the right speed of retrieve, that makes the difference between catching 1 or 2 fish a day on a jerkbait and catching 50 on a jerkbait. When I'm dialed into it, guys, if I right this time of year, I can go to a couple lakes here in Missouri, and when I get dialed into the right color and the right cadence, there's been tons of days where I've caught 50 or 75 fish in a day. But I could go back to that same lake a week later, and if I did not hit on those right conditions, I might catch 4 or 5 fish. So that's really important, and really the only way that you can figure that out is by experimentation. That's the way that bass fishing is so much, because all we can do, like when I'm teaching you guys here on the YouTube channel, I can give you things that have worked for me in the past, but I also want to reiterate on anything that I talk about is that you have got to experiment. You've got to stay open-minded, and that's the only way that you find out new ways to catch fish and new colors and new approaches is through that experimentation. And there is no better time to experiment than when you're catching fish. If you get, say for example, you get on them, you get on a good bite with a black and blue jig or something like that, and you're getting bites, it's very tempting just to stay with that because it's working. But that is the time you need to put down that black and blue jig and try some other colors, try some other weights, try some other approaches, some different colors. That's how you maximize and become a master at bass fishing, is through your own creativity and imagination by trying to figure stuff out like that. So anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching the video, guys. And finally, guys, I just want to give everybody a big thank you, man. If you're one of the subscribers here that have subscribed to Advanced Bass Fishing, and you signed up for the Patreon program, or you're signed up to be a channel member, and you're using all the links I put in my video descriptions. Thank you very much for me and my family. We really appreciate that. So hope you guys are well. Talk later.